For the talk this morning, we will take a koan from the Hikigan Roku or Blue Cliff Record. The book it's taken from is called Two Zen Classics, translated with commentaries by Katsuki Sekida. Wait one moment. The case is number 87, and it is called Ummon's Medicine and Sickness Cure Each Other. The main subject says, Ummon said to his disciples, medicine and sickness cure each other. All the earth is medicine. Where do you find yourself? Medicine and sickness cure each other. All the earth is medicine. One can also say all the world is medicine. Where do you find yourself? Another translation says, what are you? Before going on to talk about this koan, I will just mention at least one of the traditional interpretations of this koan, which is here expounded in a short paragraph by Sekida under his notes. I won't read the whole paragraph, just a few sentences. He mentions again medicine and sickness cure each other. Then he says Buddhism is necessary like medicine because man is sick. When the sickness is cured, Buddhism can be discarded. Medicine is a kind of poison. It acts as medicine only to a sick person. When the sickness is gone, the medicine must go too. If not, it turns into a poison. There's really a so-called sickness of Buddhism which Zen masters are vigilant in eradicating. One can question, and one may find that one has to question, whether in curing sickness one needs to adopt anything. And one should be cautious in assuming that if one adopts something, one will be at some future time ready to drop it. Ready to throw it away, to free oneself of this. All of that is in the future, and of course the reason that is often given is at this moment where one is so sick, so undeveloped, or whatever the words are that are being used, one needs this. At a future time when there will be more development, more health, more understanding, or total understanding, complete health, then one will be able to drop one's attachments to the medicine. All of which is a thought projection into the future, which is itself a construct of thinking. Anything that will ever happen, or ever does happen, happens only now. So, why cannot one drop attachments now? Not start clinging to something in the hope of that in the future this will cure one, and in the future one will be able to drop it. Not to make any such assumptions. History of religions does not bear out the truth of this assumption. Koan says sickness and medicine cure each other. Cancel each other out. And then it says the whole earth is medicine. The whole world is medicine. Everything, everyone is medicine. What is yourself? What are you? Where do you find yourself? Where does one find oneself? If one finds oneself very comfortable, at ease, happy, one doesn't even look for oneself, one doesn't even find oneself, one just floats along with a pleasant condition. There's no questioning of it. Maybe here and there the thought comes up, will this last? Or even the thought may come up, am I really happy now? At which moment there is a disruption of the process. And a discomforting thought has arisen and may bring discomforting feelings in its wake. This may in fact not last, and then one may imagine past sadness, future sadness, and so forth. But in general, you will find, if you pay attention, that the awareness or attention is usually of discomfort and sickness and disease in oneself, dissatisfaction or pain, frustration. And then the immediate reaction of feeling, I don't want that. It goes together. It's almost can't be kept apart. The feeling of discomfort and I don't want that. Can be a physical, immediate, instinctual rejection of the condition, as well as in thought. The thought often, until there is clear awareness, it's murky, quite dull, and yet it is there someplace. I don't like this. How can I get rid of it? What is it going to lead to? Where is it going to end? In trying to talk this morning in the light of this koan, we'll mention all kinds of states of sickness and disease and discomfort, anxiety. And as we talk about it, mention it, describe it, there is no judgment of that. There is no feeling it shouldn't be, it's wrong, or we must overcome that. We must get rid of that, outdo it, or whatever. None of that. There's just a looking at different states of dis-ease. And can all of us do this together? And catch ourselves if this dull feeling, this shouldn't be, or I don't like that, I don't want to look at that. If that comes up, can it be seen? Can it be detected? Because looking is a very sensitive detecting device. Only most of the time we don't want to look. We're afraid. Can that also be seen? And in the same way that one may look here at one's different states of dis-ease and discomfort, can that also go on in daily life? Where one is much more distracted, much more involved with things which one is partly involved with in order not to have to look. And then a thought come up, what am I doing? What's going on? And then sort of gather the energy in irradiating whatever is going on with the light of seeing, of awareness, which does not judge, which does not say, I mustn't be like that, I must be like somebody else, or like my ideal image of myself that I hope to attain in the future. Also, in looking at these various states of uneasiness, imbalance, disharmony, can one refrain from saying, this is my sickness? Yeah, this is how I am. What happens when we do that is we identify some entity, which we don't even know what that is. We've always had it, we've always assumed it is real, some kind of a me, with something that one sees in oneself. I am that, I have that. Which is then becomes very exclusive, very almost elitist, even though one may not feel at all elitist about it, but it has that character to it. Other people don't have that. Other people are much better off, are much worse off. They don't have to struggle like I do. They have so much less fear. They seem to me so much more courageous, so much freer, less inhibited, which is both the process of comparing oneself and identifying with certain things one observes in oneself. One may be entirely mistaken. What one observes in oneself may be very typical for every human being. If one sort of peels off the outer skins of unique constellations in one's life, which are really rather superficial. When one refrains from identifying with certain characteristics, states of being that one observes in oneself, one may find that a great burden falls off of one. The burden of also justifying oneself, excusing oneself, blaming oneself, or blaming others, and rather be a feeling of the commonness of this, the generality, universalness of human sickness, which is shared. So rather than looking at oneself in terms of this is me and this is not me, this is mine and this is not mine, which is already probably the root of all human sickness, this division into what is me and what is not me, what is mine and what is not mine, somebody else's. one doesn't indulge in that, and it's a certain indulgence or a habit, a habitual way of thinking. When there's awareness of this and then not carrying it any further than it has already gone, terminating it there, then there's a much greater freedom to look, to see, to feel, and to listen without any need of defense or aggression. Sickness, one doesn't know where to start the list, and it doesn't matter where we started. I remember reading last week in a newspaper article about that smile in Cambodia. Several of you may have been here. There was a statement which I was going to go into a little bit by the former ruler, or the former ruler of Cambodia before this terror regime of Pol Pot, Prince Sihanouk, who this reporter who was writing this article had interviewed years ago, and he had remembered a statement that the prince had made. You know, don't you, that all the material world is illusion? I was going to comment a little bit on the danger of such a statement, particularly in connection with this article in which it was stated how almost smilingly atrocities were committed and received. The image of the dictator there was also a smiling face. Everyone was almost everyone was smiling, before, during, and after. And then this idea, this statement that the whole material world is illusion, this can become such a fixed idea in one's mind that one doesn't care about this material world. After all, it's illusion, so what does it matter what happens in it? What does it matter what I do to you? You're an illusion too. Somebody mentioned to me yesterday, the self is just an illusion, isn't it? If you say that, then you know it already what it is. It is an illusion. It's not real. We delude ourselves in thinking we're self, so we don't have to look at how we really act, because it's all delusive. Can you see how words can become veils and blinders, and also escapes? Rationalizations for not doing this hard work of pulling aside all veils, so that the vision can be clear, unsmudged by any idea. So things that beset us, all of us, not just isolated individuals, is inner confusion, not knowing what is the right thing to do. Because one has all this array of ideas of what is the right thing to do. And these ideas do not jibe somehow with what is actually going on, and one does not take the pain to test whether they do, or rather throw them out and just see what is actually going on. If one ever did that once, maybe it would not be so confusing what needs to be done. But one is confused of what is the right thing to do with one's children, because ideas abound about what is the right way of bringing up a child. All the ideas one has gotten in one's flesh and bone and marrow and guts from the way one's parents brought one up. And there are constantly psychological articles being published. There are specs on the radio, 5-minute things, very terse. I just heard one the other day. If your child wakes up at night with a nightmare, don't keep going in there because you just make a habit. He just cries because he wants to have you in there. So it was, and you need to take care of yourself. It was a real propaganda appeal in a way which had quite an impact, could really leave a person in a quandary of what is the right thing to do when my child wakes up at night with a nightmare. And then one wonders about these ideas and tries to think them out and come to a thinking solution, and the child is crying, one hasn't even looked at him. I'm not saying that you do this. But you can't resolve the crying with an idea. You have to find out. You have to be there. Hold him or her. Get the feel of it. See him without any ideas and without any idea of what is my right in this connection. You may be dead tired in the morning, or you may not. You don't know. What is the right thing to do with the person I live with, my husband, my wife? Again, all the images of what she's doing, how she's behaving, has behaved. I'm doing all this for her. There's no gratitude coming back to me, no appreciation of what I do. I work hard all day long, and I come home, the dinner isn't ready, or why doesn't she act like a housewife? Imagery of what the person should be like, images of what one is like, the provider or the worker. And these may not run true to what really goes on when one comes home. The fatigue, the irritation, when already bringing back from the office. One doesn't look whether there is irritation and fatigue on her face. One doesn't see each other freshly. It doesn't mean that the person comes at you fresh, in a fresh mood. But the fresh seeing which is not at all tinted by what was yesterday or what went on during the day. What is the right thing to do? If you're driving home, you've made up your mind tonight, I'm going to say such and such to my wife, and bumper stickers suggest what you should do. Somebody in front of you says, "Have you kissed your wife today?" Or tell her that you love her. So that may be the last thing she wants to hear, because she can hear it comes from a bumper sticker. Confusion of how to relate to people. Why is there this confusion? If one dropped ideas about it, then one would look and listen. One may not know what to do at a moment, but that's part of the whole situation. And that need not be confusing. One does not know what to do at this moment. Why is it confusing? It becomes confusing the moment you think, I ought to know what to do at this moment. There should never be a gap in which I don't know what to do, which is another image one has of oneself. One person in the last session realized with a full force of clarity that all his daily life he's preparing himself for all emergencies. He happens to be a teacher. cramming, preparing sometimes till after midnight so that there will not be one question a student asks that will not have a prepared answer. Driving himself nuts in the process. Because there's always the fear that there may be that one question that one has not prepared for. And that came into full vision without judgment. One hears a lot about that one has to take responsibility for one's family, for one's children, one's wife or husband, and for the community, for the county, for the state, for the country, for the world. And yet one doesn't know what this responsibility is. One doesn't know what it is. It's an idea. And then myriads of ideas are offered to one daily of what this responsibility is. Do this, do that, and then with that you take responsibility. So one doesn't know what to do, because taking responsibility in a certain way, becoming involved in some kind of a organization or many organizations, civic, political and otherwise, may take one from the family. And then all of a sudden it dawns on one that one is neglecting the family, or may not dawn on one. One may be so propagandized by the cause and the purpose of what one is doing that one may feel this justifies some neglect here. One doesn't look. So what does it mean to take responsibility? Anywhere, any place. And is it an assumption that taking responsibility one place completely is taking responsibility for everyone and everything at that instant? Because there is no division among us, between us. We all hang together. One move, physical or psychological or mental here, affects everyone and everything. Because we do touch each other everywhere. May not be aware of it, but it is so. So what does it mean to take responsibility? The sickness is having this complete confusion about what responsibility is and where is the place where I should take it, or how can I take it here and here and here. And then the conflict between these different activities, which have not even been found by oneself. One is following somebody else's suggestions of what is responsible action. Do you see that? So what is responsibility here at one instant of interrelationship? Someone told me yesterday that she talked to a man she was visiting in a small family, and this person said something to the effect, if I remember correctly, I'll take responsibility for my family, but I don't care about the rest of mankind. Which is this process of identification that we've talked about earlier. This is my family. It belongs to me. Because it belongs to me and because I'm identified with it, I will take responsibility. I'll take care of them. But this process of identification, this is my family, I don't care for the rest, has already created a total separation, a total cut-offness from the rest of humankind, from other families, from other people. And yet, it is so. When one is married, one has a child, there's responsibility for this child. Is there responsibility for the husband or wife to take care of each other? Not because one has promised it or vowed it. Is it possible, this question came up recently in a discussion, is it possible to be responsible without identifying, without saying I'm responsible for my family or my friend, my child or my country, but that's as far as I will go? Responsibility means no more or less, no more and no less than responding adequately, appropriately to the situation as it presents itself, inside and out. And to see what this present situation is inside and out, there has to be clear seeing with no ideas. Not even the idea of responsibility. It may already be linked up with feelings of guilt, of obligation, of duty, which link in, hook in with a network of past punishment, past rewards. So how to perceive this instant of relationship with whoever, so clearly, without any ideas that the action is responsible because it responds to what is there, not out of prejudice or idea, but out of nothing, out of clarity of seeing. So we were actually first going to go through a whole panorama of sickness, gotten a little bit sidetracked into already talking about medicine. One thing commonly felt by people, probably the world over, everyone who comes in to talk has this problem of lack of love. A feeling of being unloved, or just recently still having been loved and now having been left by the lover, and so now one is unloved, lost, immediately thrown into questioning and doubting one's whole worth, and craving, yearning, or demanding love from others. Just always hoping, fantasizing that somewhere there is this relationship in which there will be someone who will love one completely, unconditionally, without ever withdrawing that love. Sort of being a permanent state of being loved and taken care of, which if one thinks about it, looks at it very thoroughly, one realizes that one is asking for maybe the impossible. Because the other people are in the same state as oneself. Intensely aching, paining with lack of love, with no love, the absence of that, the dryness of no love, and wanting that love from someone else, which is you who wants that love from another person. So when one gets together with a lot of images about the other person being this lover, this person who will take care of me, but one doesn't find it, and the other person doesn't find it in one either, because there is no love. There's only ideas. And because there are only ideas, there's the clinging to the person as an idea. I got to keep on to this person, hold on to him or her. When the person is absent, there's the pain of loneliness, and the idea of what this person has done for one. One doesn't remember usually the conflict and problems. When one remembers the few times or that was what seemed a loving relationship, which is usually just good physical feeling or mutual comfort, doing something together where one's interests jibe, they're the same. One doesn't clash, I want to do this and you want to do that, so we can't even get together on that. No, there has been that. So this is the memory that comes up, and the ache of the memory, and the wanting to reconstruct that, to bring that back. And either one gets together with this person again, and then it isn't quite like that. Because there is no love in oneself. There's only oneself, which is images of oneself, memories, past experiences, and what one wants to be and wants to become, and wants to have and thinks one needs. This whole construct of the me, and mine and not mine, that may be the root bottom of human disease. And thinking that, identifying this with this body that's sitting here, walking, talking, acting, that there's a me there, rather than just what is going on, without identification with an idea or an image. Because it is always the image that gets hurt, offended, is flattered, insulted. The picture that comes to mind is one of those strange rigs, I think that's the word, that we've built into the ocean, often quite far from the coast. Very, very difficult, elaborate construction, which has taken probably centuries and centuries of technology to perfect. An oil rig. Here it's a thing that's totally foreign to this ocean. It's sort of, the waves snap at it. You wonder what it does to the life of the plants and the fish, with all these oil leaks coming out of it, with the things that are dumped from it into the water. And then a storm, and times these things just totally break. They're annihilated because they just don't belong there. The ocean is the ocean. It's complete. It's whole. And here one puts something. I don't want to carry this too far, so I was talking against oil rigs. I'm not. But here, in this flow of living, there sits this rig of a me. And it divides the flow, it pollutes it. And the pollution is the fear that comes out of it. Imagine living on a rig like this. You wonder how the people feel, how those people felt. I don't know where it was, in England or someplace where this whole huge thing went down. Nobody was saved, the people drowned. The fear of sitting someplace on an artificially constructed thing which just does not really quite hold up to all the storms and all the winds and all the natural occurrences. If it's not there, the waves just blow, and then they calm down again. Nothing has been attacked, nothing has been destroyed. So, and yet one keeps up this rig inside this flow of life, which is oneself, this rig of me. And this is the disease, because out of this is fear, the fear of being lost alone someplace in this ocean of life, separate, not of the same material. Everything around one is alien. What is around one is real. It can be heard, felt, seen, and touched. But the me is a thought construction. Even though thinking has created it and keeps maintaining it, patching it up, trying to assert it, and you can watch this beautifully. It is so simple to watch once one realizes this absolute urgency to do that because of all the damage that this me does. In its defenses, the damage to oneself, the pain which goes along with all kinds of bodily symptoms, feeling hurt, the depressions, when one compares oneself with other me's. So when one really feels this enormous urgency to watch this thing, to observe it, how it affects oneself, how it affects others. And one may find one holds on to that because if one doesn't have that, there's nothing inside. Which is another symptom of the human disease, this feeling of utterly painful emptiness inside. We touched upon earlier about the worthlessness of oneself, which is so immediately feelable if one has been doing something worthwhile, maybe relating to another person or a job, and all of a sudden one is fired from the job or the person has left one. What am I worth? Maybe the momentary crushing of the rig, of the images that one is a worthwhile person to which one has clung, and then there's just nothing. And the pain of that. Other people may perceive one as nothing or as this or that. One doesn't want that. And there's, again, the immediate, almost instinctual reaction to fill it up with something. To fill that gnawing void inside. Becoming something again, attaching again to another person, to a new religion, to a teaching or to a teacher. so that one can be out of touch with this inner void. Forget about it. Throw oneself into a new rig. And yet it crops up again. I remember one time, I don't know how many years it's ago, 30 years, or 20, driving, we always used to take these Sunday drives. On Sunday, one drives. All the week long, one hasn't driven, not in a car. It's been this and that, work and studies and household and shopping. And on Sunday, there is this day on which one takes a ride into the country. And that is precisely the time when it can just hit one like a brick wall falling in, that there's just nothing there. I remember looking through the windows of the car. It was a dull day, seeing some fields and feeling that there was absolutely no relationship from here to there. And at the same time a yearning to, what is this out there? What are fields? But not knowing what they meant, how when one was totally cut off. On a day in which, for which one usually longs, a day that I have nothing to do, where all the daily pressures subside, one can take a ride in the car. And this feeling of cut-offness, of total inner emptiness, was at the same time an intense physical pain. It's not just mental or spiritual, it's just as physical. And then the mind starting to turn. What can I do? See a psychiatrist or something like this. I have to. This can't continue. This is too desolate. Actually, going along with it, not just the pain of the cut-offness, the pain of the emptiness, but also an intense anxiety, which was not very well defined. It had in it the elements, is this going to last forever? What is going to be the solution to this? And the hopelessness of it, that there may be none. But of course, fear being immediately the activity of thinking, which is our immediate reaction to any kind of dis-ease or discomfort or dissatisfaction or pain, the thinking process starts going immediately. Sometimes, as you found for yourself, many people who've sat for long periods find that it's often very murky, dull, this thinking. It is not clear. It's someplace, like a clot in the body. But if one attends to it and not just wants to think that away or be rid of it, then one realizes it is a churning of thinking. How can I be done with this? How can it end? And this is bad. This is wrong. Which is already a division from the condition. It is a false remedy, a false medicine, to try to think one's way out of one's sickness. Which doesn't mean that it is sickness to think. It depends on how one thinks and whether it's this dull, mechanical, habitual, circular churning, or whether one starts looking at the situation without wanting to get rid of it, without wanting to end, without wanting anything, just looking. As long as there's wanting, you can't look. You can't see as long as there's wanting. Can you see the wanting? Wanting to be free, to be happy, have peace. Not think of the happiness or the peace or the freedom, but focus in on the wanting. What is it? That constant physical, mental movement, churning away from what is. What is medicine? What is a remedy? We do see that we're sick, that we're diseased, uneasy, in pain, in fear, in conflict, with our different ideas of how we should be responsible. What's the remedy? What's the medicine for fear, pain, anguish, confusion, division? What we want habitually is just freedom of all of that. The ending of it. Not having to be plagued by this anymore. To forget it. And as long as this is our idea of a remedy, this is what we're going to go after. We've touched upon it earlier. Finding new relationships, new associations with new organizations, spiritual, religious groups, a new teacher, or entertainment, drugs, anything to get away from what is there. Inner emptiness and pain, fear. And yet what we think is our medicine, or one may throw oneself into work with incredible energies, trying to achieve, become somebody, climb a ladder, business or politics or a religious organization. During that time, there may be such enormous surges of energy and good feeling that everything else is forgotten, and one may think one has remedied the situation. But we started out with this koan which says sickness and medicine cure each other, which means cancel each other. And we may find that all these other things that we are trying for remedy, for medicine, become the sickness itself, because one becomes attached and dependent upon it. With, again, the fear of that this may not last forever, may come to an end or may be broken up through some disaster. So there cannot possibly be any medicine or remedy if we're attached to it, if we cling to it, because then that becomes the sickness. When we decide to really start looking at how one lives, But is one really looking? Is one really observing directly, immediately, as things occur? Or is it always sort of in retrospect? After something has already happened, the damage has already been done to oneself and others, then one starts thinking about this. It may be the only way one can do it. But even there's a difference of whether one analyzes the situation or whether one evokes it again. One can evoke the whole situation with all that led up to it and look at it. Look at the memory of it, all right, but look at it rather than just thinking it out. And because in thinking about it, there's a distance one has, and one starts already gaining a new confidence when one can analyze one's situation. There is in that a satisfaction, which is a pseudo-remedy, which means a new disease. One has a new image of oneself as a knower, who is really on top of one's sickness. One knows about it, one can analyze it, explain it intelligently. I was talking to a person once who does this. Actually, this person does it professionally. She's a psychoanalyst. And things were coming up during the day, certain hassles with members of the family. And then the next day, she would be very honest and very capable in analyzing what had all led to this hassle and what this had to do with in this person's past and in her past and so forth. And one time I asked this question, what if one observed this right as it arises? Because this is still sort of in retrospect, it is removed and the thing has already happened. Why not at once just see it as it arises? And the immediate response of this person was, I don't want to use my energies that way. It's a very amazing response because there was the understanding that this takes energy. And also the understanding, no, I don't want to do that. There was that amount of clarity. Which also means I don't mind living with this. It's all right. It's all right. I don't care. I don't look for a change, really. The explanation is sufficient. So where do you find yourself? Do you find yourself in a position of saying, it's all right. I can't do much anyway. Maybe somebody can explain it to me. I'll take his or her word for it. Or do you realize that you don't want to live this way? Constantly damaging oneself and others. If one damages oneself, one damages others. And every sickness, every disease. Remember, I had to take in college in the first year, we had to take a health course. It was required. And one thing that stuck to my mind, because this professor would repeat that every day several times, is no matter what sickness you've ever had, I don't know whether it's true, but he said it, whether it's just the slightest cold, it leaves a scar. It leaves scar. Your body has been damaged. Now, this is a very heavy assumption, and the assumption also being that you're worse off for it. You may not be. It may be scar tissue, and yet you may be able to function very adequately. As far as psychological scars are concerned, do we assume that they are there forever? That they are unerasable, irremovable? with constant power over us once they're triggered. That assumption itself is a disease. We don't know. It certainly makes one uneasy to think that one is stuck with one's whole past forever. But we don't know. Sickness and medicine cure each other. The whole earth is medicine. Is this sort of a comforting statement thrown out that sort of gives one a little bit of hope again? Or can one try to put it to the test? What this statement says is that anything you touch is medicine. Anything, inside and out. Meaning, what does it mean, everything is medicine? With that possibility, with this potential of canceling out disease. Is disease medicine? What is disease when there is no me that identifies with a state? No thought that tries to think up a solution? No judgment that it is right or wrong, good or bad, damaging or not damaging? No idea about it. Not knowing what it is, and yet complete touch with it. Touch with it sounds as there is someone or something that touches it, but it's just that. No one touching it. No one trying to operate on it. No one there. Which means no murky thinking. Because one does not want to get rid of it. When you don't want to be free from anything, you don't have to initiate this murky thinking process. Because you don't want anything. You're just with it. And you don't know who you are. You will not cling to any ideas and images. You will not compare my sickness with your sickness. No my, no your. Just sickness. What is it? The thinker, the doer, is sickness. It's separation. It's that rig in the ocean. Whatever the thinker, the doer, drums up is more sickness, more division, more ideas. What is this state? Where do you find yourself this instant? When you don't know. When you realize you can't know, and there's nothing you can do. Then where do you find yourself? What are you? Whatever comes in the mind, can it be seen without judgment? Without comparison?